I think you'd probably agree with me that this was, by far, the hardest recovery of my career. Few employees almost quit because of this. We'd have plan after plan after plan that just kept failing. People were getting stuck. The ground ate Lacey's boots right off of her feet.
I just got lost a boot. Oh my God, I'm literally stuck.
The mental strain that it took to be able to keep failing and then keep coming back when we were completely exhausted, running low on sleep, running low on equipment, running low on everything. This one about broke us. Ladies and gentlemen, I am currently standing at the site of where I experienced the most difficult, the most expensive, the most logistically challenging, the most mentally exhausting recovery that I've ever performed in my entire life. And now listen, I know that I've said this is our most difficult recovery yet a lot of times in a lot of different videos, and that's because it seems like every recovery that we do is a little more difficult than the one before it. But this right here, ladies and gentlemen, was the granddaddy of them all. And even though this recovery is already done, I'm gonna take you back in time a little bit to show you just how insane this really was. You see, we actually had a bunch of footage of this that we couldn't release for quite a while because, well, a bunch of different reasons. But now we can. And I'm gonna show you guys exactly what happened. This happened in May of 2020 out here on my old island, Fremont Island, in the middle of the Great Salt Lake. And this area right here is basically pure quicksand. This is the lake bed of the Great Salt Lake. You see, the lake is way down. It's way over there, but it used to come up to like right here. So that means that this whole area is very spongy. So once you break through the crust, it's literally, like I said, quicksand. And you guys have seen some of our videos. You may have seen the aftermath of this event where we came out and hauled the excavator off of the island. But basically what happened here was just an absolute shit show. Within the matter of about 3 hours, I managed to get a handful of my different vehicles stuck, including Polaris Rangers, Army trucks, John Deere farm tractors, 60,000-pound excavators, and the list goes on and on and on. And it literally was just pure chaos. And I'm gonna walk you guys through exactly how that happened, and then I'm gonna walk you through the insanely difficult recovery that took almost a complete month for us to be able to finish and get cleaned up. I'm telling you guys, give up, it's not really in my vocabulary. It's not something that I do. This is probably the closest I've ever been to wanting to give up on recovery. This, like I said, cost me probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. It almost cost me a few employees that were just completely burnt out and done being out here. It almost cost me my relationship with the state of Utah. I'm telling you guys, this was an absolute doozy. So buckle up, because I think you're really gonna enjoy this. Hey, you guys wanna see something cool? Watch this. Pretty sweet, huh? You see, I had to learn this technique because my nice Athletic Greens shaker bottle, well, somehow mysteriously went missing. Listen guys, that right there, in a matter of 30 seconds, I just covered all my daily vitamin, mineral, and nutritional needs. You see, Athletic Greens, the sponsor of today's video, the sponsor of a lot of our videos, the reason why we're able to do so much cool stuff and create so many cool videos for you guys is right here in this wonderful bottle. And this is also the reason why I feel better. This helps me have better energy, better focus, better gut health, better just overall wellness. These are things that I've actually experienced from drinking this every single day. So guys, listen, even though I'm not a doctor, I'm about to give you some advice on something that's worked for me. If you've been feeling down, low energy, bad gut health, just overall not feeling great, could be that you're missing key vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in your diet. This right here could potentially make you feel better. One scoop and you're done. Give it a try, guys. I'm telling you right now, this has been hands down one of the most important things that I've added to my daily routine to just feel better. And the best part is, if you guys want to try it, with your first order of AG1 by Athletic Greens, they're gonna give you 5 free travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D absolutely free. So guys, all you have to do is click the link in my description below, go to their website, place an order, and give it a try. In my opinion, you got nothing to lose and potentially a whole lot to gain. I know I have, and I really think you will too. So give it a try, and thank you, Athletic Greens, for sponsoring the channel. All right, let's start this story from the very beginning. Right over here on the water of the Great Salt Lake. You see, out here on Fremont Island, the only way to get here is basically by boat, by aircraft. I built a boat. Well, that boat had a closed circuit cooling system, so it was able to handle saltwater situations like this. So I put it in the marina, and I decided that I wanted to see what it was like to run a motorboat on the Great Salt Lake, because not very many people have had the opportunity to do that. So I said to my family, while I've got the boat in the water, how about we load everybody up and we cruise out to the island? Because at that time I had Polaris Rangers, I had trucks, I had tractors, I had all sorts of equipment out here to be able to take the family around the island. It was gonna be just the most epic Sunday you've ever seen. So I load my wife, my kids, my mother-in-law, relatives, my dog, pretty much. We put a lot of people on the boat and we were cruising. Roughly 7-8 miles from the marina here to the island, we began to approach the shores right here of the island. Now keep in mind, since the water is so low, the shoreline is way far out here. I'm talking half a mile or more from where the old shoreline used to be. That meant that I had to find a way to transport my family, my dog, and the whole group from the boat onto the island. And I thought, no sweat, I got this. I've got every vehicle you can possibly imagine out here. I'll go grab my Polaris Ranger, come down here, you know, seat 6 people, plus we can put people in the bed, plus a dog. I'll grab it, we'll load them up. So I park the boat out here in the water and run up to where we kept all of our vehicles by the little cabin. Get up there, grab the Ranger. I've driven the Ranger out here a million times, no big deal. Cruising along, and I get within, probably right in this area, maybe 100 yards or so from the water. And the Ranger goes, random soft spot in the middle of nowhere. 10 feet that way was firm as could be, 10 feet that way was firm. We just hit this random soft spot and the Ranger sunk and got stuck. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I thought, I'm gonna get the vehicle that we use out here all the time that never has any issues. My 5-ton cargo truck with the wide, high flotation kind of swamp tires. So I run up, I grab it, I'm driving along just like I always have out here, kind of knowing the terrain, knowing where to go, doing the same thing I've done a million times. And from right here where the Ranger was stuck, about 100 yards that way, the 5-ton goes, and it sunk pretty good. In fact, it sunk more than I had seen any of our other equipment sink out here. So I knew that something was going on in this area. So at this point, I've got 2 vehicles completely stuck. I've got the Polaris Ranger closest to the boat. Next, I've got my 5-ton right here, which is really buried. And the tires just start to get fully souped up and smoothed out with mud. There was no getting it out.
And he buried that. Now where is he? He's walking back up to try to get something else. We'll just hang out.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get some heavy equipment because, you know, I got my family sitting on the boat. At that point, they were kind of starting to unload and kind of trickle onto the beach because, you know, I'm an hour deep on trying to get them off and all I've done is get 2 vehicles stuck. So I go to the other side of the island over by the well, which is probably 2-mile walk. And I go get a John Deere, I believe it was a 6250 farm tractor, 4-wheel drive, big fat tires. We'd driven it all around out here when we were originally trying to cultivate the ground and possibly farm out here. This thing always does really well in soft, swampy conditions. So, cruising over, just thinking, all right, I've solved the problem. This is gonna be what pulls out the Ranger and pulls out the 5-ton. I'm gonna have to use some of my family members to help drive each vehicle as I pull them out. Cruising along, right there, within about 100 yards of the 5-ton, the John Deere sinks. At this point, I'm like, shit. So now I have the Ranger, a 5-ton, and my John Deere tractor completely stuck. And it's starting to get late. The sun's starting to go down, bugs are starting to come out, family's starting to get hungry, people are starting to get a little anxious. Like, you know, it was fun for the first hour or two out here playing in the mud, kids having fun. You know, the moms are starting to think like, okay, well, what's the plan to get us out of here? Because the boat's out there and we're all stuck here, and it's like a 2-hour boat ride back. And if we leave now, we're still gonna be leaving in the dark. I'm over it. I'm ready to be, just out of here. I'll come clean up the rest of the vehicles, next week or, tomorrow, whatever, with my guys. Right now, I just gotta get one vehicle unstuck so I can load up the family and drive back over to Antelope Island. So I walk again another 2 miles to the other side of the island where we keep an old excavator. Old faithful, right? But it was like a 50, 60,000 pound excavator, but it worked pretty well. So I ran over to the other side of the island again by the well and walked the excavator all the way over here. Now, by the time I get the excavator to this beach, the sun was pretty much gone. And so I'm walking the excavator across the beach where we've walked it a million times before. I mean, I'm telling you guys, this thing's got wide tracks, it's got lots of flotation, and then the unthinkable happened, which brings us to kind of the ultimate spot where all hell broke loose. At this point, I've got 3 different vehicles completely buried in quicksand. The sun has gone down, it's about 9 o'clock at night, the wind is starting to pick up, and I get right here, and all of a sudden, I started sinking down about 2 inches. And I noticed it really quickly, and I thought, okay, I do not want to get this machine stuck. So I stopped, right? I stopped to get my bearings and to figure out what to do next. And I thought, I'm just gonna back up, go the same way I came, and figure out a different route to my machines because this is getting ugly. I put the excavator in reverse, and as soon as I do that, that provided just enough violent movement of the surface that the excavator just went boop, literally sunk about a foot in a split second. And that happened right here. So at this point, I realize that I've got one last Hail Mary chance of not getting this machine stuck as well. So I take my boom, which was facing this way, and I spin around this way. I reach it out as far as I can to try to get the weight pushed that way, away from the soft stuff, and I go to pull it in, and I go to walk the tracks at the same time. And it walked about a foot, and then just all the ground underneath me just completely collapsed. And the excavator sunk up to its belly within, I don't know, 30 seconds. And it was so bad, the water table was so nasty out here that even just the vibration of the machine running, of the engine running, was enough to kind of like jiggle the ground, make the water come up. It created what's called liquefaction. So it was pushing the soil and the sand down, water's coming up, and basically I'm stuck in quicksand. So I'm literally grabbing everywhere I can around me, trying to find something firm to get a hold of. And each time I put the bucket in the dirt, it just turns into soup. It's not working. So I spend approximately 30 minutes total trying to get that out. And then I realized that every time I moved it, it was just getting more and more stuck. So I said, you know what? We're gonna call it. We're gonna shut the machines down. I'm gonna call a friend of mine to go grab my helicopter, which was back in Bountiful at the hangar, to fly out, load up my family, get them off this island, get them to safety, get the kids to bed, and I will then take the boat, which is still sitting out in the lake, back to the marina in the dark. Took us about 2 hours of very violent boating, got back to the marina, put the boat away, went home, and thought, I just created one of the biggest messes of my life, and this is gonna be extremely difficult to fix. The next day, after that nightmare of a night on the island, was a Monday. I started sending texts to all my guys saying, hey, here's the situation. Let's get all of our recovery equipment ready. We're gonna take 2 or 3 more 5-ton Army trucks and, recover it and get it off the beach as quickly as possible, because you have to remember, the part where I got stuck was not the property of my island. So this right here, where we got stuck, was state sovereign land. And I knew that my friends at the state were not gonna be happy about a giant excavator and a bunch of other equipment being stuck on state sovereign land in the lake bed, and they were gonna want that gone immediately. So we went all hands on deck trying to get this figured out. We brought the cargo trucks out here, we brought a bunch of winches, a bunch of straps, a bunch of ropes, a bunch of chains, and we started trying to recover, one piece of equipment at a time. The problem was, since all the ground surrounding the area where we got stuck was so soft, we couldn't get close enough to be able to get any traction to be able to pull with any of the other trucks. the beach where we could drive was so sandy that as soon as we would hook a tow rope up to one of the stuck vehicles, the 5 tons would just sit there and spin their tires. We didn't have a winch big enough or strong enough to be able to reach out to any of that equipment, and we didn't have a good anchor point here on the beach, even if we did have that big winch. We spent Monday and Tuesday basically fiddling around with the 5 tons, trying to get it done, and made absolutely zero progress, and actually ended up kind of making things worse, because in trying to pull out the stuck equipment, all we did was make it sink even further. When we left on the Sunday night, when we originally got stuck, I did turn the excavator off because I didn't want it to kind of vibrate itself into the mud all night. The next day when we came out, fired back up, but after we spent Monday and Tuesday with the other trucks and equipment trying to recover this stuff, we caused all the other equipment to sink much deeper in the mud, and that's where the excavator sunk down to basically the top of its body, meaning like half the cab was in quicksand. That meant that all the electronics, everything was kind of underwater, under mud, under muck. Luckily, the engine compartment doors were still sealed enough that the engine was still running. So we knew that if we left on Tuesday night and turned the engine off, that there was no way it was going to start again for us the next day. And we needed it running because the boom was still functioning and the tracks were still pushing and pulling, and trying to pull a dead excavator out of the mud would have been significantly harder than trying to pull one out that could help us a little bit. So we left. Tuesday night, left the machine running, left all our equipment sunk out here, and Wednesday we thought, all right, we got to get aggressive. We got to take another excavator out there. So when we decided to bring the other excavator out here, we realized that we were gonna need some swamp mats. Swamp mats are basically 4 foot by 20 foot, 30 foot long timber pads that they use on pipelines and in swampy areas for equipment to be able to walk on top of soft ground. In order for us to be able to get from the beach to the stuck equipment, which is approximately 200-300 yards, we were gonna need a bunch of these swamp mats. I'm talking, I think I ordered 30 of them. That meant we had to transport them from southern Utah out here to the causeway of Antelope Island, which is across the other side of the 7 Mile Sandbar, and then individually load 5-ton cargo trucks with, I think it was 4 to 6 swamp mats at a time. And I had literally everybody that I knew and everybody that worked for me driving cargo trucks back and forth. We spent a whole day shuttling cargo mats back and forth from the causeway over there that's, like I said, 7 miles away. And Bud drew the short straw, and he ended up being the one that had to walk the excavator across the 7 Mile Sandbar, which excavator walked like 4 to 5 miles an hour. I think it ended up taking him 2 hours, a little more than 2 hours, just slowly walking. And that's when we finally ended up here at home base. Now let me show you home base. This brings us to Thursday. Sunday we got stuck. Monday and Tuesday we wasted a bunch of time trying to recover them with vehicles that weren't capable. Wednesday we transported another excavator and several 5-ton army truck loads of swamp mats to this location, and we unloaded them. So on Thursday we came back out with a plan, feeling good, ready to recover our equipment and ready to be done with this job. So with these swamp mats, which as you can see are still here a couple years later, we started building a bridge one by one out towards the sunk excavator. The plan was to basically use the not stuck excavator and dig a giant pit around the buried machine. The swamp mats worked great. It allowed the excavator to walk out there no problem. We built platforms all around it and it was good. Started digging and we were making lots of progress. So we exposed the engine bay of the excavator, which remember is still running at this point. After a couple of hours of digging, the water and the soup starts to come back up to the surface and starts to fill the hole that we're digging around the machine that we're trying to get out. Not only that, but as we dig around the excavator, the ground that our not stuck excavator is sitting on is starting to get softer and softer because we're digging closer and closer to it. Recovery excavator started to kind of sink into the hole, and we had to basically abort mission, and we had to reach out and crawl the machine back onto the pads into safety. The plan with that was to be able to free up the tracks enough that we could use the boom of the recovery excavator and pull the stuck excavator out of the mud. We spent all of Thursday afternoon, all of Friday afternoon, all of Friday night, and some of Saturday working on that plan, and things just continued to deteriorate. The situation continued to get worse. We are now Saturday night. We still have the John Deere tractor the 5-ton and the Ranger stuck, because we haven't even tried to start recovering those yet, because we wanted to get the excavator out first, because we knew that once we got that out, then it'd be easier to work to get the other machines. At this point, we had worked all through the night of every day that week. It would be 3, 4, 5 a.m. before we would leave here. Something would break, something would get stuck, something would cave in, and we'd get right back out here. Because at this point, the state had become aware of the situation, and they were riding me really hard. They were like, you have to get that machine out of there. It cannot be stuck any further. Like, you can't take a break until it's gone. And I wasn't going to anyways, because I knew that it was a bad situation. And it was getting to the point where the excavator that was stuck kept sinking so much that it almost completely disappeared. They're like, this is not a good thing, so you have to get it out and, you know, recovered. So, as you guys can see, at this point, I'm having a really bad week. We are really not much closer to having the stuck excavator recovered than we were when we started. In fact, we're probably in worse condition because it's sunk so much deeper and the engine is starting to kind of misfire. It's not running as well anymore. And if it dies, it's gonna be really hard to get this thing recovered. So we have the swamp mats, we have the recovery excavator, we have like 5 army trucks, we have a bunch of other equipment out here, and I just keep scratching my head trying to think, like, what is the missing link here? What is the final piece of equipment that we need to be able to tug this thing out? Because keep in mind, guys, we couldn't get a heavy wrecker out here because they couldn't get across the sandbar. So I started thinking, okay, I'm gonna get a big quad tire farm tractor, or a big John Deere with tracks on it. Start looking into that. That's not gonna make sense because those, again, have nowhere to pull from. All the ground around here is soft. So even though they could potentially make it out here, as soon as we hooked them up to the stuck vehicle, they were just gonna sit and spin and possibly sink as well. So I dug real deep in my brain, in my tracked vehicle, database, which is a pretty good, sizable chunk of information. And I thought, I need a snowcat. And originally I wanted a snowcat with a winch on it, because they make snowcats, they're called winch cats, that are designed to basically pull snowcats up and down the side of mountains as they're grooming the snow. Started digging into that, and A, there weren't any available here locally, and B, the winch on them is not significantly, it's not real strong. It's only like a 10,000 pound winch. It's basically only meant to haul the weight of the cat up and down the mountains. So that's when I called my buddy Jim up at Peterson Equipment. And I said, Jim, what's the biggest snowcat you've got and how soon can I get it? And he said, I actually have a Prenoth Beast, which is the largest snowcat ever built. And he's like, and I'll give you a smoking deal on it, and it's up here at my yard in Logan. Come grab it. So at this point, we've been working nonstop for, from Sunday to Saturday. We decided to take the next Sunday off because everybody was worn out. We decided to regroup. Monday morning, I drive up to Logan and we pick up the Beast, the Prenoth Beast, which is like I think it's 20,000, 25,000 pound snowcat, 18 feet wide, 500 and plus horsepower. This thing is an absolute monster. There's a reason why they call it the Beast. And we bring it out to the causeway, and this is where some of the coolest footage that we have starts to pop up. I got to drive the Beast across the 7 mile sandbar at sunset. It literally looks like I'm driving a snowcat on top of the ocean into the sunset. Super cool stuff. All right, guys, so it's Wednesday. It's been roughly 10 days since I sunk the excavator. And most importantly, we have what I believe is the missing piece and the key to getting this job done, which is the Prenoth Beast snowcat. What we did was, for the next 24 hours, we were excavating around the stuck machine, which was just about to die. Remember, it's still been running for 9 days straight. So since the Beast did not have a winch on it, we had to create a snatch block and pulley system. We originally started trying to pull with just one straight cable and getting a run at it with the Beast and using some big kinetic ropes to absorb the energy, and pulling single part line was not moving the stuck excavator at all. It wasn't even budging. So we doubled it up. One snatch block, 2-part line, essentially doubling our pulling power, and that didn't do it. So we kept on adding more and more and more snatch blocks and pulleys. This is probably the biggest snatch block system and the most part line we've ever used in any recovery. I want to say 8 or 9 snatch blocks going back and forth, back and forth. And remember, every time we add a snatch block and a pulley, it increases and multiplies the pulling power of the snowcat that's pulling on the stuck machine. It was an absolute maze of cables, wires, ropes, chains, and pulleys. And keep in mind that they're all just basically dragging in the mud. Every time we try to recover it and it doesn't work, everything just slops down in the mud. And I have the beast just running like full tilt. This thing's been running nonstop for, you know, almost 2 days now. We finally get to the point where we take some swamp mats and we put them right down in front of the stuck machine. We excavated out with the machine that's not stuck. We basically built a ramp for the stuck excavator to kind of climb out of, because miraculously the tracks were still driving forward and reverse, which didn't make any sense at all. But the bad news is the bucket and the rotate and all the other hydraulics quit working. So we no longer had the pulling power of the bucket to help us out of the hole. We were just kind of stuck, but we still had tracks that were functioning. So what we had to do was just kind of slow down and think, because we were just running so violently towards getting this thing unstuck for so long that people weren't really thinking clearly. So it was when we finally stopped and put together a real thought out plan of building the ramp, digging the hole, you know, setting up the right amount of pulleys and snatch blocks, was when we made our first little bit of progress. One funny thing about this was, originally, since the machine got sunk so quickly, there was nowhere to hook on the undercarriage because it was all in quicksand. So we were originally pulling from the bucket. Well, that wasn't working, so we had to find a spot lower on the frame to be able to hook. That alone took Diesel Dave and Hunter and Jim probably 4 hours of digging through the muck, even with the other excavator, you know, pulling it out. Every time we would pull a scoop out, more would just slide in. So we finally got to the point where we hooked onto the undercarriage of the excavator. We had a good pull point. We had everything lined up. And then it just came down to sheer brute strength of the beast. It's about probably midnight, 1 a.m. at this point, that we have everything finally rigged and staged and ready to go. And I just start giving full running starts with the beast, full speed ahead with probably 50 to 100 feet of slack in the cables, and boom, tensions all the pulleys. You got lines and stuff snapping all over the place. And the first couple pulls, the machine moves just a little bit. And we're like, all right, we got it. This is going. We spent the next 45 minutes just, like I said, doing nonstop full speed hits with the snowcat, with anywhere between 50 to 200 feet of slack in the line. And finally, almost 2 weeks from the day that it got stuck, the excavator starts to walk and starts to move and starts to climb itself up the ramp with the beast pulling it, and, you know, the other excavator kind of pushing it. Had this stuck excavator not had the ability to spin its own tracks, it would probably still be here, because it was bad. Every time we moved it, the ground would try to swallow it back up. But this was one of the probably most celebrated moments in my career. When I saw that machine climb up out of that hole and onto the swamp mats and onto stable ground and was still running, and I looked around and there's no more machines stuck, everything is out, that was a damn good feeling. So from that point, all we had to do was build a swamp mat bridge from where it was stuck, you know, roughly 200 yards across the swampy lake bed to the stable beach. And so we grabbed the other excavator, built the bridge, and lo and behold, we walked the stuck machine to safety. And that was it. It was there, it was done. And then...
Listen, don't say that was it, okay? Because these stupid swamp mats would disappear. We were running out of, like, how many truckloads did we have?
That is something I actually forgot to mention. The swamp mats were disappearing, because keep in mind, quicksand, what does it do? It gobbles up anything that's on top of it. So we probably lost at least 15 or 20 swamp mats to Mother Earth. She just gobbled them up, which meant that we had to move the ones that we still had a lot more. So we were using the front dozer blade of the snowcat, we were using the excavator, and this is where Hans and everybody really started to just kind of lose their minds, because hooking up a chain to a swamp mat that's covered in basically Play-Doh mud, not as easy as you might think. People were getting stuck. The ground ate Lacey's boots right off of her feet. In fact, we found her boot like a year later out here. It was insane. This ground was so pissed off that no longer was it just trying to, you know, swallow trucks and equipment. It was trying to swallow people. It was swallowing up all our swamp mats. And had we lost maybe, you know, a handful more of the swamp mats, we wouldn't have been able to build the bridge that we needed to be able to get the equipment off of the lake bed once we got it all out of the mud hole. Even though we got all the equipment off of the beach, we still left this massive gaping hole and swamp mats all over the place. It just looked like a war zone out there. I think it took us over the span of probably 6 months. In fact, that 6 months led up to our first YouTube video that we started posting again. Because guys, you got one thing you should know about the channel is we started it in 2015, posted like 3 or 4 random videos, and then got too busy filming the TV show Diesel Brothers and had to, you know, kind of put YouTube to the side for a while. So it was stagnant for 5 years until October of 2020 when we came out here and showed you guys the, you know, recovery of the excavator, getting it off of the island from after we had got it stuck. It's kind of like Star Wars, right? Is that how Star Wars works? I've never seen it.
It's amazing. You are 100% wrong.
I've tried to cut that moment of time out of my life and memory.
We all have.
So many times. I was just reading over text messages from back then.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, hey, so-and-so doesn't feel comfortable going back out there.
No, hey, so-and-so quit. There was, I think there was 1 or 2 people that actually said, I'm done. Like if I have to go back out, I'll just quit. That was probably everybody. We were basically running shifts of people out here, just rotating people in and out because we were trying to keep this thing going 24 hours a day because the state was putting so much pressure on us to get it done. The best part about this story is all the side stories of people, of our guys trying to get out here. I think there was one part where Lacey and Burnout got stuck in a Polaris Ranger in the middle.
Diesel, Lacey, Burnout. So fully loaded, tools and everything.
Middle of the lake.
Diesel's driving. Water, can't see anything, just driving, belt, gone. This way, I knew there was people there, I knew there was machines to get back.
Oh, you guys left.
We walked.
You left Burnout and Lacey. Burnout and Lacey stayed in the Ranger.
With all the snacks.
For like 4 hours while these guys walk back.
I spy with my little eye something blue.
Water. I spy with my little eye something hopeless.
That was just one of many, many stories. Everybody who was out here for this experience probably still has salt and sand somewhere in their body.
I don't want to talk about it. What do you think this is from?
So we were constantly trying to find ways, you know, brainstorming things about, you know, building lodges or doing something out here that could actually make money. The problem with that was, and I started to learn, the more time I spent out here, the more I realized this land did not want anybody on it. It fought us every step of the way, and it usually won every battle. What I mean by that is I left a Polaris Ranger out here for like a week, came back, and the birds, like, they sent me a message.
They totaled it.
They completely totaled my Ranger. They shit on every square inch of that thing. Inside out, they built nests like inside the tires. We had the excavator stuck out here. We had Lacey driving 5-ton cargo trucks back and forth, which she was great at it. She either got it stuck or it broke. I can't remember what happened. We had to leave it overnight. This was one of those stormy nights where the water and waves were all over the place. We came back the next day to be able to pull it out, and the battery terminals and electrical connections had completely just disintegrated.
Gone.
Just dissolved.
Left the chap.
That brings me to the reason why we decided to ultimately sell the island, because this needs to remain a part of Utah's beautiful history, and it needs to remain untouched. So we sold it to a group that ended up donating it back to the state of Utah as a conservation easement. So where we're at now is public land as a conservation easement for the state of Utah. It's open to the public. You can hike out here across the sandbar. You can fly out here and hike around. You can't do business out here, and you can't bring motorized vehicles, but I know a lot of people bring mountain bikes out here, and they explore the island, and it's really cool. And I think that's ultimately what the island wanted.
The house always wins.
Yeah, the island always wins. The mental strain that it took to be able to keep failing and then keep coming back when we were completely exhausted, running low on sleep, running low on equipment, running low on everything, and just had to keep coming out that next day, knowing that there was a good chance that we were going to fail. And we did. We kept on failing. So
I'll never forget the time we drove that way, 7 o'clock in the morning, after being here all night. And then we said, what time are we showing up tomorrow, or what time are we coming back? And you said 9. You gave us 2 hours.
So guys, I have just a couple more things to say before I let you go. Number one, if you have a recovery or something that is really logistically hard to move that you think we could help with, or in help searching for a missing person, search and rescue, shoot us an email, info@heavydsparks.com. We're constantly looking for ways to help you guys, the viewers and the community. So if you have something in this area, the Intermountain region, shoot us an email and we'll do everything we can to help. Number two, this is a really important one. You guys are gonna look down in the comments below and you're gonna see some guy using a picture of my face, and next to his name is gonna say Telegram and then a phone number, or WhatsApp, or DM me, or inbox me. Like, they're gonna use that as their username. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna see that picture and you're gonna think, oh, Heavy D is sending me a message. And then they're gonna leave a comment on a comment that you leave. And it's gonna say, hit me up for a prize, or inbox me, or message me, or thanks for watching, I have something for you. Guys, stop falling for this. You have to stop responding to these people, because when you respond to these scammers, you fuel them. If enough of you start reporting these pages, they'll start disappearing faster and stop spamming all of our comments. With that said, guys, thank you for the support. Thank you for going on this ride with us, because it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, when we started this, we just want to show you every part of our life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the nightmarish moments like this. So with that said, see you guys on the next one.